Okay, for this first question, we need to start by finding the raw score. So it says to find the raw score, it's the sum of the other three marks, providing we remove the highest and the lowest. So if we're looking at Alan's marks here, the highest is 7, so we get rid of that. The lowest is 5.5, we get rid of that. Sum means add, so I'm going to add 6.5, 6.0, and 6.5. Which gives me the answer of 19. Then, now we know that the raw score equals 19. Go back up here and it says to find the total score, you've got to do the raw score times by the dive difficulty. So that's 19 times by, it says here, his dive difficulty is 1.8. So 19 times 1.8, type that in a calculator, gives me the answer of 34.2. Okay, for the next question, it's already told us the raw score of Tom and the raw score of Dylan's. So we're going to use these and their dive difficulties to find out who actually had a better total score. So we'll start by finding Tom's. As I said above here, the total score is always the raw score times the dive difficulty. So 24.5 times by 2.0, and then for Dylan it's going to be 22.0 times by 2.5. Again, got a calculator, so by all means use it. Which is 49, and then 22.0 times 2.5 equals 55. So, don't forget who and by how many. Well, clearly Dylan by 6. So my answer is Dylan by 6 points. Okay. For this question, because it wants us to find out which of these difficulties he should choose, obviously you want the highest total score. Just choose each one of these raw scores and multiply it by the dive difficulty. So the first one would be a 22 raw score times by 1.8. So that's here, 22 times 1.8. The next one is going to be 21 times by 1.9. So that's here, 21 and 1.9. Next one would be 2 and 20, so that'd be 20 times by 2.0, etc. So as you can see, I've multiplied them out. I stopped when I got to the most likely score, raw score of 17, and the lower the higher dive difficulty, sorry, because as you can see, they're gradually getting smaller. So the answer of 40 is my biggest score. Therefore, if he wants the highest total score possible, then we should be looking to choose, so Jamal should choose the dive difficulty of 2.0. Okay, before I read on, I'm just going to start to get my head around this. 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 of these N's equals 1F, but 1, 2, 3 of the R's is equal to 1N. So what I could write by here is 3 R's, 3 R's, 3 R's, and 3 R's. So what we do know is 1F can also be the equivalent of 3 plus 3 plus 3 plus 3, which would be 12 R's. So in a game, a hat costs 6 Fs. Well, I know that 1 F equals 4 N's. So what do I times 1 by to get to 6? Well, obviously 6. So I'll times this by 6 to find out how many N's that is, which is 24 N's. Well, for the next part, I know 1 N is equal to 3 R's. So if I've got 24 N's, what do you times 1 by to get to 24? Well, 24. So I'll times 3 hours by 24, which is 72 hours. Lara only has 60 hours. Well, we know the hat actually costs 72 hours. Is there enough to buy the hat? You must show you know how. We've shown here, so the answer is going to be no. Our 12 are short. Could have done it other ways. We could have changed 60 hours to F's, but I've decided to compare the price of the hat instead. If we were to look at it the other way, I won't go through the workings, but you do know that she either needs an extra 1F, or if you compared it with N's, she would need another 4 N's. Quite a lot of reading with this one, so let's take our time. We know it starts at 2 PM, that's going to be the first ride, and 20 people can go on each ride, and a new ride starts every 5 minutes. So we know there's a ride at 5 past, 10 past, quarter past, etc. This is the part where potentially we could make a mistake. Just before the ride opens, 200 people are in the queue. A group of young people join. So because they join the back of the queue, there's now the 200 people which are already there and those 50 people. So there's actually 250 people which we need to get through this ride. It says they know that the last ride they can go on starts at 2:55 PM. So a few different ways we can do it. I'm going to start by finding if it's at 2:55 the last ride and they run every 5 minutes. Well, I'm going to start by finding how many rides there are in the full hour. So I could do 55 minutes divided by 5 because they're every 5 minutes and the last one is at 5 to 3, which would mean 11 rides. However, you've got to remember the first ride is actually dead on 2 o'clock, so we have to add that ride on to these 11 rides. This is including a ride every 5 minutes, but it's forgotten to include the one which starts at 2 o'clock. So there would actually be 12 rides in total. What we do know is that there are 20 people on each ride. So if there's only 12 rides in an hour and there's 20 people in total, it's 12 times 20, which is 240 people. So remember, we wrote here 250 people would need to go on it, but only 240 will fit on there throughout the hour. Therefore, unfortunately, no, there will be 10 unlucky people left over. So for this question, because they're different shapes, they've got to be different numbers. So I'm going to write down all the numbers we can add to get to 11 first. So we could have 1 and 10, which is 11. We could have 2 and 9, which is 11. We could have 3 and 8, which is obviously 11. We could have 4 and 7, which is 11. Or we could have 5 and 6, which is 11. Now I'm not going to go back to 7, and the next one would be 6, because then it takes me back to 5, and it's going to give me the same answer of 11. So I'm going to stop there. Now it says work out the greatest possible answer of these two multiplied together. So I can multiply 1 by 10, which is 10. I can multiply 2 by 9, which is 18. I can multiply 3 by 8, which is 24. 4 times 7, which is 28. And then the last one, 5 times 6, which is 30. So what's the biggest number we can make? Well, it'd be 30. So nice and easy if you have a method. We already know from the previous question, 5 and 6 was our best chance of getting a high number. So we've got to stay within these parameters, but because they are not whole numbers, we're going to go decimals. So I'm going to try 5.5. Well, if I've added on 0.5 to there, I've got to take off 0.5 here. So I know 5.5 plus 5.5 would be 11. I'm also going to try taking off 5.5 from there, so I'll try 4.5, but then make this one if I'm taking off 4.5 here, I'd have to add on 0.5 to there, 6.5. I'm going to stop there, and I'm going to, because I know that would equal 11, and then I'm going to multiply both of these and see if, or which rather, gives me a bigger answer. So 5.5 times 5.5 will give me 30.25, and then 4.5 times 6.5 will give me 29.25. So as you can see, the biggest answer there is 30.25. Okay, for this question, again, bit of reading required first. A school runs a quiz. Each game has 3 players. So if each game has 3 players, that's definitely something we're going to need to know. One game involves 3 players. The winner of each game takes part in the next round. So obviously if you win, you're still in. If you're not, you're out, unfortunately. Right, round 1, all winners from round 1 take part in round 2. Okay, so round 2, same thing, and then the winners, and then finally we have a final at the end. And if it starts off with 81 players in round 1, but we have 3 players playing in every game, I'm going to start by doing 81 divided by 3 to find out how many games there are. So 81 divided by 3 is 27. So we have 27 games. Well, if we have 27 games, we can only have 27 winners. So in the next round, so this is round 1, so in the next round, we can only have 27 players, because there's only 27 winners. And again, 3 players in it, so I'll divide by 3, which is 9 games. So there has to be 9 separate games, which means there are 9 separate winners. So if there's 9 winners in round 3, 9 divided by 3, because you can only have 3 in a game, 9 divided by 3 is 3, so that's 3 games, and if there's 3 games, there's only 3 winners, which takes us down to our final. Well, 3 players are playing, don't have to do 3 divided by 3, but if there's 3 players playing, divide that by 3, we know that's only 1 game, and our final winner. So we started off with 27 games, down to 9, down to 3, down to 1. We want to find out how many games have been played, so it's nice and simple. Add these together. 327 is 30, add the 9 and the 1. 40 games in total.